JUJUTSU! What's up guys, it's GxYakuza here, and today we have a special video talking about our main characters Megumi and Yuji. All their battles but swap, meaning every fight that Yuji has had in JUJUTSU KAISEN, put Megumi in that situation and see how it could against the villains, and vice versa. I saw this video from ThunderGod and Seth the Programmer when it came to Naruto and Sasuke. They're the originators, just to let you know. So I took this idea and adapted it into a JUJUTSU KAISEN format. So I appreciate them for the idea. Now it's interesting because of the type of fighters these two are. They just are completely different. They differ from each other a lot, and the outcomes would definitely be interesting. If you haven't so already, leave a like. I'm gonna be very ambitious for this, and I want to say around 150 to 200 likes. You know, I feel like this is a big video that I'm making, so we'll see how it goes. And yeah, man, subscribe if you're new, turn on the post notification bell, and let's see how Yuji and Megumi pans out within these fights. So when I start this off, I want to start it from the time that they're both become JUJUTSU sorcerers. So let's say when Yuji was in a test with Nobara, Yuji was able to take it down with his cursed blade with ease. Megumi in this position already is a sorcerer with a little bit of experience, even offering to exercise him in the first place. This would have been a pretty easy kill for Megumi, so there's actually nothing to elaborate here, we'll talk about. Next we have when Yuji and Megumi came against the cursed room. Now at this point, Yuji is still a novice and had to fight against the finger bearer while Megumi was trying to save Nobara. This is Yuji's fight where he lost and he had to switch with Sukuna, and it was pretty over from there. But Sukuna did quite a lot of things before it could destroy the finger bearer. So putting Megumi in this situation, would he have been able to defeat the finger bearer? Well, after seeing what's happened to one of his dogs, how stunned he was, especially when he came into contact with it. On that same day he fought Sukuna, and you can tell how he was struggling an awful lot. The way the fight would probably pan out, it would be Megumi using his intellect, but he would have had nothing to completely defeat this finger bearer. I believe Megumi in this situation would just lose, because with the finger bearer's explosive wave, it will completely destroy any of his Shikagamis and him himself. Not even to include the fact that he has no regenerative power or durability, so he would pretty much be a pack and he would have to call Maharaga. But in this case, I'm not gonna spam Maharaga for every single thing, but it is what he is going to use. But either way, he will use this one. In the next fight, we do have Megumi versus Sukuna, and to be honest, Yuji fought Sukuna already when he was inside of himself when he died, and we know how that turned out. So for this one, we're just gonna say they both lose at this stage. Now let's get into some good fights. Next is Megumi versus Todo. Todo and Ayui was asking, what's your type in woman? And ramming through Megumi, which didn't conclude because Inamaki and Panda were involved. So putting Yuji in this situation, Yuji would most likely be able to handle Todo. He would be able to handle it much better than Megumi did at the time. Megumi, even without knowing what Yuji has done for 2 months during the Kyoto Goodwill event, said he would be the strongest hand to hand with Todo, or the best to deal with him. Although Yuji most definitely got stronger and better at controlling cursed energy within 2 months, he definitely became a stronger force. But yes, Yuji would be able to hold it up hand to hand with Todo, but similar to Megumi, it would have been stopped and put as a stalemate by Toji, Inamaki and Panda. Okay, so the next fight we will have on the timeline would be Yuji versus Junpei. We know how the story of Junpei and Yuji is, and the fight was to stop Junpei. Yuji technically lost, but he wasn't going all out because of the fact that he wanted to save him. He knew he was a good person, and it was pretty sad sight to see. If Megumi was in the position of Yuji, I believe it would have been easily able to restrain Junpei. His Shikagamis would definitely be able to handle the jellyfish. The poison Junpei hits Megumi with would be a big issue, but Megumi most likely would restrain him without even that being the case in the first place. So yes, Megumi would have handled the situation much better at that point due to his Shikigami versatility. So this next fight is a serious one. This is Mahito versus Yuji. Before getting into this, we have to remember the only reason Yuji survived and kicking is because of Sukuna. Yes, and now we're going to actually replace him with Megumi. Idol Transfiguration is a very dangerous ability. Now, what if Megumi was in this situation and in this fight? Well, Megumi would be planning to escape at all times, because why on earth would you fight Mahito? This fight would have meant Megumi's deathbed was completely sealed. He can't hit the soul, and he can't protect his own. One successful idol transfiguration and it's pretty much wraps. His form of success would need to be born from Niue, taking him away and flying. But even then, due to Mahito being able to change the shape of his own soul, he would just fly towards him. Megumi would wound up using the majority of his Shikigami, but unless perhaps he has something to hit him with, he can only fend him off until Nanimi comes. in which even then he wouldn't be as much help, and they'll probably get packed up with the domain expansion of Mahito. So the only way that you can actually win is if you release Maharaga, as I said before, but we don't want to spam that, so in this case, Megumi will end up losing and straight up die. The next fight would be Yuji versus Todo. This fight went to Yuji. Kinda, it really did have Todo admitting Yuji was superior in raw strength, even though Yuji doesn't utilize a lot of cursed energy, as he hasn't perfected it yet, making it an advantage as his movements were a bit hard to read. Yuji definitely showed promise. Now switching Yuji's position and putting Megumi in, you could tell it will be much more of a problem if it was the other way around, because Megumi is not known due to his physicality. His Shikigami would be advantageous within the setting that he is in the forest. But the Shikigami in the forest is not the biggest issue. It's the fact that Iori Todo could successfully use the Boogie Woogie against him because of a lot of Shikigami that's available for him to switch with. Megumi will surprisingly seem weaker than Yuji around this period. The addition of the elephant for Megumi would help in this case to maybe stop him in his tracks due to a muddy surface or terrain, in which it can help when you use Niue in the air as well, just because it's electricity and water together against Todo. Considering Megumi wasn't entirely worried about Todo in the previous encounter, it makes me believe that the outcome will probably be different and he has counters to Todo. This could really end up going either way, and since Megumi can legitimately hide weapons in his shadows, it could be easier to handle when it's close combat. Best case scenario, he would have to overwhelm Todo, or else he could be outdone, but Todo, he will take it for now. The next fight would actually be Megumi versus Noritoshi Kamo. Noritoshi Kamo and Megumi fight was stopped at a stalemate, but it was a pretty tough matchup even prior to it, with each pretty much holding back a little. There's evidence to support so, especially when they fought against Hanami afterwards, and they're both surprised as to why that is even the case. Kamo will not hold back, as his aim would be to kill Yuji. Now, this is a Yuji that held up against Mahito and dismantled Todo to bits, who they agree is the strongest amongst them physically. So Yuji again, Kamo using doping would be pretty tough, but Yuji would most likely handle the situation. Not that doping is weak or anything, but Yuji's physical nature is just that strong. Also, with the fact that the poison wouldn't work against Yuji, it would make Noritoshi Kamo a bit less efficient, in fact hopeless. So all in all, I believe Yuji would be able to beat Noritoshi Kamo, although his curse energy is not perfected yet. And we've seen Yuji is a very doable human being, especially when you see him against Mahito, and he was able to actually take holes all across his body, in his hands, and still keep on fighting. So yeah, I do believe Yuji would actually be able to win this fight. Now I will skip the Hanami fight because they pretty much both fought him and we kind of saw what the result was. So that one, it's pretty much going to be the same outcome. So where does that lead us to? You guessed it. The origin of obedience arc. So the fights that occurred during the origin of obedience arc, when Megumi fought against the finger bearer, and the other way around was the fact that Yuji was fighting with Nobara against Eso and Chekizu. So Megumi won the fight with breaking his limits and activating an incomplete domain expansion. Yuji Todori in Megumi position might struggle quite a bit since it was stronger than the one before, but I genuinely believe Yuji would be able to kill it. The addition of fighting the disaster curses such as Hanami and Mahito has made it so much easier for them to deal with higher level curses such as the finger bearer. Mixing that in with the ability for Yuji Todori to do Black Flash, Yuji would destroy this finger bearer in probably one Black Flash hit, and if the dog can kill him from behind, I believe Yuji Todori would be able to kill the finger bearer. Now onto Megumi and Nobara tag team. This would have been very interesting if this was the other way around, as the Eso and Chekizu partnership would have changed the whole dynamic of the fight. While Eso can use maximum technique, Wing King, to track Megumi versatility would be quite beneficial. It would allow him to evade such attacks with the Toads, for example. Similar to how he used the domain expansion, I don't think it would have been necessary due to Nobara's technique. The poison most likely would have had a heavy effect on Megumi, and he would be able to operate in a different manner. In addition, having an elephant would help if he was able to use it effectively against the blood users, so they can operate inefficiently. But all in all, the same things would have occurred as similar to the Yuji fight. Only difference is perhaps with the death of the Shikigamis, a dog or snake, whichever is accessible, would be able to get stronger and be able to defeat the opponents. So I'll give this one to Megumi. So now we enter the Shibuya arc. Oh boy, is this one going to be interesting. So first thing first, we are going to do the battles that are when they're not together, so when they're not fighting as a team. So the first fight in this would be Yuji versus the Grasshopper. This fight was entertaining and showed off how better Yuji was while showing his improvement, especially when it comes to IQ. The Grasshopper IQ wasn't great, and Megumi is definitely smarter in these instances than Yuji and the Grasshopper. I believe this would be an easy fight for Megumi, tricking and blinding the Grasshopper with any of his shadow techniques, to be honest, and any use of his cursed weapons. Legit, this will probably not be difficult at all. Next up, we would have the amazing Choso versus Yuji. In this, I will be real with you guys. It would definitely be a difficult matchup for Megumi. In this fight, Yuji Itadori is seen as a grade 1 sorcerer, similar to Megumi, and it was pretty much a test period. But Yuji Itadori also had help. He ended up losing, resulting in a Choso victory. Although I say this, I believe perhaps Megumi could put up a better fight than Yuji Itadori. Now the only way that would be possible is mostly down if Megumi ends up not getting hit and not getting poisoned. So the reason I believe this is because Megumi has an elephant which can spout out water. Although Yuji Itadori knew this due to the help of Mekamaru, Megumi would have instantly known this already since he previously fought Noritoshi Kamo. Although he is not potent as Choso, he can set out a much better game plan to defeat him. So when Choso and Yuji ended up in a 1v1 situation, Megumi would have been in a similar situation as well and would be able to utilize his demon dogs in where he can cause a big hassle for Choso, who's not able to operate with his blood manipulation as free as he would like. They would get killed and strongest Shikigami which is left could finish off Choso in that regard. Since this is pretty much a couple of days apart, and you know that means Megumi is still capable of this. If not for the incomplete domain expansion, which would leave Choso completely invulnerable, and with the fact that his inability to use blood outside the body as well would be a massive struggle to begin with, and Megumi doesn't have to fight close range. But yeah, surprisingly, I think if Megumi was going all out against Choso and vice versa, he would win big time, considering the setting that they're in and how they are fighting. So for the next fight is Dagon versus Megumi and others. Let's imagine for a second that Yuji was taken out the domain expansion by Toji, selected him, then threw him to fight Yuji one-on-one, meaning it was now Yuji versus Toji Fushiguro 1v1. This is interesting because the only reason Megumi is here and breathing, he actually was remembered by Toji as his son. But on the other hand, let's say Yuji actually fought Toji for the little time that Toji did fight against Megumi, how would it have ended? Well, Megumi was able to divert their attention and was limiting the use of his resources at the same time. Yuji would have tried to escape but would have failed miserably because of the sheer speed of Toji. Yuji would be struggling heavily and suffer critical damage if he was fighting him head on anyway. Reason being, against Naio Zenin, you were able to see he got blitzed very fast and he was not able to keep up. And that's nothing in comparison to the big Toji Zenin. So he would have been decimated at that point, aka Speed Blitz. Unless he was able to predict his movements, which we know Yuji Itadori has a knack for. Although I do believe he would be able to turn the tides of war if he lands something good like a Black Flash, or be able to get a little bit of a chance through that, which is pretty much ridiculous at this point. I do believe Yuji will survive in the same time, but not win whatsoever. So it would be a Yuji loss for sure. Now Haruta versus Megumi was barely a fight, more like an excuse to use the ritual. Megumi snuck by Haruta. Haruta will 100% lose to both Megumi and Yuji if they had to fight him one-on-one. I mean, look what Nanami did to him, spoke to him with no difficulty. But the big fight of the series, Yuji versus Mahito, but with the exchange position of Megumi versus Mahito. Now this is not a fight you hear about too often, but this is Mahito with experience versus Megumi with experience. Earlier in the video, I did say Megumi versus Mahito and how it would pan out. In this case, Megumi will end up losing and straight up die. But over some time, would things have changed? Let's see. So Megumi now is able to use the incomplete domain expansion, so he can use the toe to grab himself from difficult situations or to grab the enemy. The Great Serpent Shikigami to stop them in their tracks, immobilizing them. The Max Elephant to release large amounts of water to fall on top of his target as well would be a very big plus. The Rabbit to escape as distraction, Nue which is for electrical shots and to be able to have mobility to fly away and things of that nature. And also the ability to commit attacks in certain sequences, as well as being there to help Megumi if he needs to be protected from a large attack. And then there is the Divine Dogs, which is perfect for detecting curses and could find Mahito no matter where he is. Similar to how Yuji had to try and figure out where Mahito is when he was inside the body, the dogs would have been able to find it and he'll be able to track him. So all this in the repertoire. How would he fare against Mahito? Well, we know Megumi is much more calculated as a fighter. He wouldn't put himself in a position where he would become a victim of idol transfiguration knowing what it's about. Because similar to Nanami, he can probably be hit once or twice altogether. Megumi has a lot of things to keep distance and attack Mahito. The only problem is that Mahito's ability to change parts of his soul into different life forms is insane. Meaning he could charge at Megumi and even Kai Shikigami very easily. But a disadvantage is that he wouldn't be able to escape Megumi because his Divine Dogs can track him the whole time. Along with the Max Elephant to be able to catch Mahito unexpectedly from above. Because there definitely would be shadows above, right? Megumi is most likely going to analyze the situation and realize it's not something that's easy at all. He can only win in one way, and it's being able to hit the soul, but he's not able to do that. The only thing he can do is exhaust Mahito's curse energy, which he would do successfully, perhaps, but knowing the stamina and how long Mahito can actually survive in a battle along with black flashes and the amount he's withstood and remained standing, and was also to cause a domain expansion 0.2 seconds after that, that would mean Megumi would have to do a lot considering he's not using black flashes as well. This would definitely be a Maruharaga situation that he has to use against Mahito or else it's over. But he would actually obliterate Mahito in the process due to the Sword of Extermination. But that's the only possible way Megumi could win, otherwise he is getting touched and is bye-bye. Yuji was very lucky against Mahito, the fact that Sukuna's in his body, because it would have been packed up so many times. But in terms of fights during the Shibuya arc, that would actually be the conclusion. Megumi was knocked out due to releasing Maruharaga earlier on against Haruta, and Yuji was also just trying to survive, and he's just told that the Heian era is coming, and that would conclude the Shibuya arc. So now we're entering the Culling games, in which there is technically a mini time skip. Yuji and Megumi have underwent some tough times, and in fact Yuji is now with 15 fingers. The first fight came from Yuji and Yuta Okkotsu. Now we know they both held back as well. It would only be game over due to how overpowered Yuta Okkotsu is. Now if Megumi was fighting him at the risk of his life, he would most definitely find a confined space and try his best to summon a domain expansion, using Rabbit to escape to start with and then proceed from there. But all in all, we know that Rika helping against Megumi would clear out most of the Shikigamis and would deem pretty much useless against Yuta Okkotsu. Yuta Okkotsu will actually be able to get Megumi pretty quickly, along with the fact that if he casts a domain, Yuta will just straight away fight back with a domain and make sure that Megumi doesn't have the upper advantage. So yeah, that would be a Yuta Okkotsu win for sure. Now the next fight is Hakari and the Kirara fight. Megumi would have had to convince Hakari in this moment that he is trying to just get some help from him, and that means that he would have to restrain him. But it definitely would have been difficult, whereas Yuji probably would have lost to Kirara due to the fact that he doesn't even understand anything about constellation stars, making it difficult to get to the desired destination. Would Hakari have used the domain expansion and start doing the gambling stuff? If he did, we would pretty much know what the situation would be. But it wasn't a situation where it was a fight to the death, so I don't think there's really much that we can go into in this. Now let's start the Culling games. Which fights were there? First of all, it was Yuji vs Higuruma. The fight here would be very eye-opening because it all depends on the judgment of Megumi. Megumi would have definitely lost to the speed of Higuruma's domain expansion, so he wouldn't have been able to counter it, in which you have to outdo Higuruma at his own game. This is something that can go either way, but let's say Megumi loses. That means a lost in his curse technique, meaning no Shikigamis. This would result into him most likely dying as a result, as he has nothing to defend himself. Even on top of that, Megumi could perhaps get a curse tool from his shadow pocket if he could still do that, and it would be the only form of defense. But that's the only thing that I can remotely see as the issue for Megumi to be able to defeat him. But Higuruma winning is definitely not guaranteed. It's a very unpredictable fight, in addition to a potential domain battle also. And the final fight that we can swap around, since we have swapped all the way from the beginning to end, is Reggie versus Megumi, but swapping Yuji in how he would fare against him. Now, knowing Yuji, he will dismantle him in hand to hand. Even though it's a sorcerer with experience, we know Yuji Todori is overpowered when it's close quarters. The ability to change items and use the receipts could help him, and it could be a big issue for Yuji Todori. But Yuji Todori with 15 finger Sukuna could probably pack more of a serious punch to him, and disrupting the cog is not what Reggie wants to do. I feel like he would actually shock everyone reading and display how strong he really is, especially with how durable. So most of the attacks Reggie will do will completely be brushed away due to his durability, and he will be stopped as a whole. At least that's what I think. Well, look at that. We reached the end. Thank you for watching this video. It actually took ages for me to make, so I do appreciate if you can hear me right now and you reach the end. I appreciate that. Look at the videos on the screen. As you can see, I'm trying to just drop complete bangers. And as I say to the new and old people that come and visit my channel, Jana.